Hey everyone, I'm Danny and welcome to Wizardry Workshop. I love Halloween. It is my favorite holiday, hands down. Yes, it's better than Christmas. So for this video, I needed to make it special. And so Chantal and I, Chantal of Darkest Raven Designs or Darkest Ravens Minis here on YouTube, we collaborated again. So it's every time I collaborate with her, it's just so cool. We come up with some really cool stuff. So this time we decided to do Skele-Gro for Halloween time. We both are making our version of Skele-Gro. It's supposed to be like a kit type thing where you get all the ingredients as well. I decided to go with sort of a store display. This is something you might see when you go into a wizarding store. I'm excited to see what Chantal came up with. I'm gonna link her video down below as well as her channel down below. Go check her out and subscribe if you like what she does. I definitely do, and I am subscribed as well. So check out the description box down below for a list of all the supplies you're gonna need to make this DIY, and let's get started. So we are going to start off with the ingredients. I've gathered some old spice jars here, so simple things like that. I thought these would be the easiest ones to do, and they're a pretty standard size, so you'll be able to find something very similar to this. And then I also have the templates for the different ingredients. There are a couple different ones. These were the original ones that I made before I decided on the jars I was going to use, and they ended up being too big, so I made smaller versions. So yeah, I'm gonna have both of these up for you just in case you want a bigger version or a smaller version. And then one of my jars is just a little bit bigger than the others, so I decided to make one of the labels a little bit bigger. So that's basically my own custom template right here. I'll include that too just in case you have the same thing that you want to do. And then we also have circular labels for the very tops of the ingredients. I printed all of these on regular paper and I'm gonna glue them on, but you could also use sticker paper. I don't really want these lids to stay black. The Skelegro bottle itself has a gold rim around where like the lid goes on, so I'm gonna paint these gold. This bottle right here, I'm going to use for the actual Skelegro bottle. I'm gonna repaint it and make it look right. But this is the lid for that one, so I'm gonna take that lid and I'm also gonna paint this gold as well. All you really need is a little scrap paper or something to paint on. I had this within reach. It's just some foam, so I guess I'll just use this to keep my table clean. I'm also going to put on some gloves because I don't really want to get paint all over myself. There are a couple of options here. So first of all, I've got this folk art metallic gold paint. I prefer to use this actually though. It is the Deco color or Deco color premium gold foil marker. It doesn't smell great, obviously. You're gonna have to wear a mask or have it in a ventilated area or both, but this has the most like metallic looking paint, especially compared to this. Or you could use some spray paint, whatever you wanna do. So all we need to do if you're using the pen is get it started and then just color anything you want to be gold. For me, of course, this is going to be all the way around the rim of the lid. And then I'm also going to color part of the way in on the top because I want the edge where the label sticks to stay gold, like around the edge of the label. So there we go. We'll just let that one go ahead and dry, and I'll just keep going for the rest of these. Next, we got to figure out exactly what we're going to use for each one of these ingredients. For the chili and red spiders, I actually went out and got some little plastic mini spiders from Spirit Halloween. We're just going to get one of our jars and go ahead and fill it with spiders so that we know how many we need. So I'm just going to put a bunch of spiders in here, jam them in, as tight as I can while still having them look cool. That looks pretty good right there. That's kind of how I want my jar to be. We can go ahead and save these for Halloween decoration. And then the rest of these we'll take out of our jar. And we're gonna color their butts red. So a good thing to do when you're if you're recoloring plastic is to use oil-based paints. Because these are oil-based paints, I don't really have to worry too much about fumes, which is great. So I'm just gonna color the butts of all of them red, just like this. They don't have to be perfect. They're all just gonna get thrown in the jar anyway. Okay, so for the Chinese chomping cabbage, I couldn't find any like cabbage, like fake cabbages or anything that would make any sense. So I found this at like a secondhand shop. It's just like a fake bouquet of flower, or fake couple of flowers, but the leaves kind of reminded me of cabbage. So I'm gonna use these leaves as the cabbage leaves. I mean, this one's gonna be really simple. We just take them and put them inside of the jar. Next, we're gonna need some grated scarab beetles. So I actually decided to just go outside of in my front lawn, and I grabbed some dead leaves because it's fall time, so it's perfect. And then I thought I could just crunch up and rip up some of these leaves so it looks like it might be like ground up bugs. I know it's not technically scarabs, but I mean, you won't be able to tell if it were a ground up scarab or whatever else. Even these little pieces of like the stem or the veins inside of the leaf are great because they look like pieces of bug legs. Now I am gonna do one more thing with this ingredient. A few years ago was like the year of the cicadas, and they came out like, I think it's every 17 years. They come up out of the ground and they're just everywhere, and they leave their shells behind. So since it was a special occasion, I gathered a whole bunch of their little shells that they shed and leave behind. And they just like clung onto the trees. You can find these like every summer, but not as often at all. Like literally a few years ago, I couldn't go on a walk without at least a couple of them landing on my shoulder. So I thought it would be really cool to just put a couple of these guys in there too, just to make it look a little bit more like bugs. I knew they'd come in handy somehow. I think I'm gonna put the shells of them kind of at the top so that you can see them better. So pro tip, whenever you order something, I always keep the foam or whatever type of packaging they have, because there's always a use for it. And styrofoam, you know, you can't recycle this. It's really bad for the environment. So I like to save it and use it for stuff. If I kind of cut a piece off of this and put it in there, I might be able to fill things up around it enough to cover it, and then it's sort of taking up the space in the middle and hidden by the rest of the sand. You could also just use sand. This is modeling sand. I don't live near a beach or anything like that, so I don't have anywhere to find real sand. That was almost perfect. That's satisfying. There we go. You know, I could have even cut that a little bit smaller, or shorter, but you can barely, like, you can't see it. All right, so the next thing we need is some fanged geranium teeth. I didn't want to just, you know, make it out of clay. I was thinking maybe there was a more creative way to do it. It's always cool to find alternative ways to do things. So I actually got some of these. It's a fake nails kit, and there's a whole bunch of fake nails in here. Some of you might already have some of these kind of laying around. You want enough to basically fill this up. I actually have plans for these for another project too, so I'm gonna save at least one of each. As they are right now, they just look like fingernails, but we're gonna use our scissors and cut them up so that they look like little fangs. For each little nail, I'm just going to cut it into 3, diagonally up from this side over, and then diagonally up from the other corner over. So each nail will give us what looks like 3 fangs. Okay, so luckily I just looked it up, and green geranium is a thing. So I can use some of these green flowers here. They actually, I think they might be green geraniums. And I can sort of fill in some of the gaps inside there and put the teeth around it. That's gonna look pretty cool. And it's also gonna make the sharpness of the fangs stand out a little bit more. So the very last thing we're gonna do is pufferfish extract. We're gonna need some of this green flash color shift paint from Folk Art and some water, and that's really all we need. Off camera, I have filled this with some water, and then I'm gonna take some of my green color shift paint and mix it in there. So I'm just gonna use the end of a paintbrush and get some of that in there, and it becomes a very cool mucky green look, which is perfect for pufferfish extract. Now, since our lids are finished, we just need to put these top circle parts on top of each one of these to cover up the part that I didn't paint and just to make it look like actual ingredients. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this out just around it. Don't cut into the print really, you just wanna cut this out. And I'm using this 1.5 inch circle paper punch. So all we're gonna do is line it up with the actual label like this and pop the label out. And so now it's ready to go. So there's our powdered arm bone is gonna go right there, and so on and so forth. Now we need to glue them on. If you use sticker paper, this is gonna be pretty simple for you. I did not, so I'm gonna glue mine on. I would have, I just didn't have any sticker paper on hand. There are the tops of all of our ingredient bottles. Now we can put the labels on them as well. So on all of the templates that I'm providing, I did also include cut guidelines. So all we need to do is take a ruler and line up the top or the left and right or top and bottom cut guide lines. But I don't want to cut all the way across the paper because then I would lose my cut guidelines. I just want to cut from where the line starts to where it ends, basically. As you can see, the paper is still together and I can still see all the other cut guides. Now it's just a matter of sticking them to the bottles. And we've got our Chilean red spiders. We got the Chinese chomping cabbage. I think this turned out pretty good, just using those leaves from a plastic plant. Here are those grated scarab beetles with some actual cicada shells in there just to make it cooler. We've got the fanged geranium teeth. These turned out okay. You can't really tell they're teeth, I don't think. You can't tell they're supposed to be fangs. Maybe you can. This is probably the one ingredient that I just don't think I nailed very well. Here is the pufferfish extract with all of its magical swirly goodness right here. And finally, the whole powdered arm bone. So it's just a bunch of powder in there. So again, here's the bottle that I got for it. I'm definitely gonna have to paint it. It's plastic. I found it at Goodwill for like $1. And I've already painted the cap gold. But the iconic part about this bottle is that it's actually got like a rib cage, arms, and a skull on top. So I picked up this skeleton man and we're gonna cut this guy up. We've got the top half. This is what we need. We need the torso, the arms, and the head. We are gonna need our X-Acto knife again because we're going to cut this whole top part out. And we're gonna do the same thing on the bottom. The skull doesn't look quite right when we look at the movie prop. Like the eyes should be colored in. There should be a little bit more like darker details in there. It looks kind of flat. You could just use a Sharpie. I'm gonna give that a shot. I'm just gonna like fill the eyes in with the Sharpie. I'm also gonna fill in the nostril or the nose, not nostrils, but the nose part. And I think I'm also going to go ahead and try and fill in a little bit in between the teeth because it looks pretty flat right there. Okay, now we need to attach the skull part to the lid. To get this on here, we're just gonna use a hot glue gun. It's gonna be pretty simple. Just see where the pieces of the skull actually contact the lid, and then just put some glue there. So I know it contacts right here, and then a little bit right here too. And then just kind of center it on there, get it where you want it. And there we have it. Pretty simple and turns out looking pretty cool. Next, we're gonna need to paint the main bottle. So I'm just gonna cover the whole thing in just a black paint, and then we're gonna go from there. You could use spray paint if you want, but I think this is gonna turn out better. So we're just gonna let that sit, let it dry. So the first time I did this is my second go. The first time around, I painted it with white with a little yellow mixed in, and now it just looks like I covered it in mustard. So I tried a few different things here. I didn't like how it turned out, so I covered it up and did a little bit of aging with the Distress ink. So there's some other coats underneath that you guys aren't gonna see because it just didn't look good. So instead of trying to mix my own paints, because I'm not getting the right color, I went out and I got this dark titanium white is the name of the color, and I think that is very close to this. So let's see if I can get this right this time. Okay, so to me, this color is already looking really close to this one. So definitely the right choice here. Some of you might be wondering, why do I keep my mistakes in videos sometimes? And I mean, some of them I cut, but sometimes I leave the ones in where I think my mistakes can help other people not make those mistakes too. So let's go ahead and just let this dry for another about 45 minutes, I'd say. We're using a hot glue gun to line up the front rib cage, glue it to the front, and then we're going to line up the back part of the rib cage and glue that to the back. And if you want to, what I'm doing is using my hot glue gun to stick the shoulder blades back to the shoulders, just so that it looks a little more natural. And yes, the head did pop off while I was doing this, so I'm just going to re-glue the head on. It might be good to just do the head last. Luckily for me, mine have joints where it just kind of like pops apart at the elbows, so I can reposition this how I want it, because the bottle from the movie has like its hand on its hips, sort of like this. So I'll just go ahead and take these parts of the arms off, keep these on for now, and we can move on to the label. If you want it to be more like the actual movie prop, I have this template. It's just black and white, and you can try and actually hand paint this on here or hand draw it on there if you want to. And Skelegro would be in gold, so you can use a gold paint to do that. But I, on the other hand, have opted for a label that I can cut out and glue on. I've also set this up so that I can use my Minc foiling machine to actually gold foil the word Skele-Gro. I'm not going to go over that in this video because I've gone over that so many times in the past. I will link how to do it in the description box so you can check that out. So first, let's foil this. I always love the way this gold foiling turns out. Cut the label out. And my thought is to just stick it right here below the ribs. Maybe should have put this on first, because now I'm gonna have to just modify it a little bit so that it doesn't overlap the ribs. Then we just glue it down. The cool thing about gluing your labels on, as opposed to using sticker paper, is that it's a lot easier to reposition and move before the glue actually dries. And there's my Skelegro label. You're probably going to need a very small brush for this. I'm just going to grab some of that brown paint, and I'm going to try and sort of line where the rib cage meets the bottle a little bit, just to give it a little more depth in there. And if it's a little bit too dark there, you can take some of that dark titanium white to even it out a bit, make it look a little bit more natural, just like this. And you can even go onto the label a little bit, blend that in a little. And I'm actually going to do that blending effect all the way around the label here. It just really does make it look a lot more natural, and it'll look even better once it's dry. So I went ahead and did similar blending all the way around the bottle. The next thing we have to do is worry about the arms. Unfortunately, my skeleton, the hand is connected to the arm bone here, so I'm gonna have to cut that off because I need it to be in a certain spot, and I'll just glue it back afterwards. Now, as for the hands, they need to be like kind of where the skeleton's hip would be, like I'd say here and right there. I am going to use hot glue just like before, nothing fancy, and just hold it there and let it dry. And now it's kind of like connecting a puzzle in a way. We just need this to look right. So I'm going to look at it from the front. You want to be able to see the arm and the bend in it right here and it needs to connect to the hand right here. So as long as you can get it to look a bit like this with your hot glue, you're good. If you haven't guessed it yet, this is not going to be a prop that you're going to be handling a lot. This thing is going to be up on your shelf because this arm here is not very sturdy. If you can find a way to do this that's more sturdy, so I mean it can be handled, let me know in the comments below, but this is how I'm doing it. And here is the main bottle of Skele-Gro. I think it turned out looking pretty good. I'm definitely pleased with it. I think it turned out maybe too big or too tall, but I think it still turned out looking good. For the Skele-Gro display, we're gonna have to print out some templates. These are on 11 by 17 paper, and as you can see, there's a bunch of little parts that we're gonna be using. So this is the 11 by 17 version. There will be an 8.5 by 11 version, a letter-sized version, but I just didn't have the time to get it done before I gotta get this video out, so it's not there. If you're watching this video like the day that it dropped, it's probably not in the templates yet, but I will add those as soon as I possibly can. In the meantime, you can go if you don't have a large format printer like that can do 11 by 17 paper, you can just go ahead and get this printed somewhere like Staples or UPS. And if they tell you no because it has my disclaimer on it here, you can let them watch this portion of the video. It's okay to have these printed for personal use. We don't want to cut all the white off of them. I just want to isolate each piece. So the idea here is to take each piece of the template and we need to stick it to cardboard, so glue it to cardboard, and then cut it out. For the vast majority of this, I'm just using a ruler and X-Acto knife. When we get to this piece, this is going to be kind of a pain to cut out. I'm putting down a piece of foam underneath, and then I'm going to use an X-Acto knife and just kind of saw these out like this. Get ready for some hand cramps. So now we've got all of our little pieces cut out. We can set those aside for now. Next we need this piece again. We had those little tabs off to the side that I didn't cut out yet. So I'm just gonna line it up with a scrap piece of cardboard that I have. I'm just using scissors to cut these out because they don't really need to be 100% straight and perfect because they're gonna get tucked in anyway and no one's gonna see them. So they just need to be that general shape and it will fit on right there. And with both of them done, it looks a little something like this. So now we are ready for this whole thing to sort of come together. So we're gonna do some scoring on the backs of this cardboard. I'm gonna use my Cricut scoring tool and a ruler. It's gonna be pretty simple. So I'm gonna show you all the different places you need to score this. On the sides of these little tabs, do some scoring right there. And then for this one, we're going to score 3 places. Number 1 and 2 are going to be where these tabs are coming out, just like on the other piece. And then go ahead and score it right down the middle. If you need to, you can measure it. Should be just about 5 inches. So as long as you go 2.5 inches in, it should actually be where these tabs kind of go inward, where they actually touch the side there. Line up this corner here with this corner here. That should be right down the middle. These, we're going to score right down the center here. And finally, this piece, we're gonna score it where all these little like nooks in the corner are. So from this one all the way up to this one, and then over to that one. And yeah, it's easier to show you than it is to explain it. So now with all that done, it should be easy to fold. So if I take this piece and fold, I'm gonna fold these straight up like this so you can see. This is kind of creating the base, the bottom part of our display. So it's gonna sit just like this. These are actually the side pieces, so I'm gonna fold it in half this way. And then we've got this piece. We'll fold those tabs in, and then we fold it in half like this. And then finally we have this one, and we already know where the folds are, but we also do need to attach these little like tab pieces. The rest of this, we are going to be using hot glue to glue this together. So that piece just goes right there. And the other one goes on the other side, of course. This is the bottom of the display. As you can see, it's a rectangle, so there's a longer side and there's a shorter side. We want one of the longer sides facing forward. This is the front of the display, so it's going to sit in here like this. So we need to hot glue right here to here. And then we can go ahead and do the same thing for the sides. So this side is going to face outward. You can see what this is starting to look like right here. Glue this side to right here. I'll make sure it's nice and straight and where it should be, and then we glue it down. Okay, now we need this other side. And then the next piece is this. This is the back of the display, and it's going to glue in right here. Now we just have to make this thing actually stand up like it should. So if we're here, I'm going to tip it up. So this is one of the sides. And if we fold the back up and the front up like this, you've got two tabs that go in here. Those glue in, and then you glue this over them. Let's go ahead and do that with our hot glue. This one goes in, folds in, and glues down right there. Now we do the same thing over on this side. And the very last thing that we need to do to get this display kind of like set up as a box is glue the front down over just like this. We're not quite finished yet though. As if you remember, we have all these little pieces here. So these are all cut out separately, and we're gonna give this some more depth by you know, having them sort of 3D, like kind of popping up out of this back part. The title, Skele-Gro, right here at the top, the skull kind of in the middle of that spiral, and then just having these sort of placed around different places, something like that. But to make them pop out kind of like a 3D display, we are gonna need some foam of some kind, or just some more cardboard, anything to make it kind of pop up. I'm gonna have the Skelegro title kind of like up a little bit, like probably just by about this much. So I'm just gonna measure how much I want and cut that off. I'm just going to take my hot glue gun and glue the foam to the cardboard piece that I want to be kind of 3D popping out. And then we're gonna put hot glue on the backs of it and place it where we want it on our display. So there you go. We've got kind of that 3D popping out Skele-Gro title. Now I'm thinking for these hands, I might go ahead and just have them in there kind of below to give it some more depth. So I'm gonna do that, but I want them to definitely be pointing straight at the skull in the middle. Now for the skull, we're gonna do something pretty cool for this. We are gonna need some plastic for this. So if you have some packaging from something that you got, this is part of my Halloween costume, so that's why I have this, but I saved it because I wanted to use this plastic. So the part we need is the plastic. I mean, it's packaging. You can find something with plastic packaging pretty much anywhere. I know it's hard to see because it's transparent plastic, but here it is. And now we're gonna start folding it. Man, I can barely see that in the camera, so I hope the glare is helping. All right, so we folded it this way. Now we're gonna flip it over and fold it back over the other way. And it's sort of like a back and forth accordion zigzag type fold. I hope you guys can see that, but it's kind of like an accordion fold. So we can glue this to the back of the skull and then put it here and it should kind of be a wobbly, kind of bobbly skull thing. And I think that's gonna do exactly what I wanted it to. Yeah, look, it's like a little bobble skull head. So here we go. I've got the display stacked up right here on a box so that you guys can see it in the camera, but we're gonna go ahead and put the ingredients in here. So the ingredient bottles are just gonna kind of go on the sides here like this. You can kind of stagger them so people can see all the different ingredients. And the last thing we're gonna put in, and I know this is gonna be too large, the Skelegro bottle. It's definitely going to cover a lot of that display, but it goes kind of like close to the front, and you can have it like sort of at an angle like this, and then you can see a lot of what's behind, or you could just use a smaller bottle. I got a very tall bottle. I should have tried to find something smaller, shorter. I had a lot of fun with this, and I love how it turned out. So here's the thought that I had as I was putting this together. You could have different flavors of actual things inside these ingredient jars. It doesn't have to be these ingredients. And then the actual Skele-Gro part, this Skele-Gro bottle could be like one of those shakers for mixing, and you could have some ice in it or something, and then people could put the flavors or different types of drinks that they want into it, shake it up, and then you could have some glasses for people to pour their drinks. So it could also be like a little thing where they could make their own Skele-Gro potion drink and have that at your party. I think that would be pretty cool. And it doesn't have to be alcoholic stuff. Like this could be lemonade and different flavors you can put in it to see what happens, you know? It could be really cool. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of this Skele-Gro display. I cannot wait to go see Chantal's, so I'm gonna go do that right now. If you made it all the way to the end of the video with me, you're a Wizard Harry. Give it a thumbs up down below if you did enjoy this project, and subscribe if you're not subscribed for more Harry Potter inspired DIYs as well as unboxings. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you in the next one.